Welcome to Biztech's CEO Conversation Show. I'm Brian Fernandez, and our guest today has been on Biztech Asia's technology show 3 years ago. And since then, the company has grown by leaps and bounds. Now, he is Vaibhav Dabhade. He's the founder and CEO of Anchanto. Anchanto is a global B2B company headquartered in Singapore that offers a suite of e-commerce and logistics SaaS products. Now, it's connected to more than 150 ecosystem partners, ranging from marketplaces, web stores, last mile carriers, and ERPs. And Anchanto's technology is designed to enable operational growth of brands, retailers, e-commerce enablers, and logistics services companies. Now, to give us more about the company and enlighten us on key industry trends, Vaibhav, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Brian. Very nice to be on the show again after 3 years.
Now, Vaibhav, for a start, give us a quick overview of the history of the company, what it does, and briefly tell us a little bit about what's happened in the last 3 years.
Okay, a lot to cover. So let me start from the start. Anchanto started in Singapore in 2011. We started Anchanto as a software company, and we quickly realized that we are slightly ahead of our time for e-commerce software. So we pivoted successfully into a services company. So from 2011 to 2018, Anchanto was offering e-commerce supply chain logistics services to brands and online sellers. 2018, we realized that the market is now ready. The brands and logistics companies are now ready to invest in buying technology for building their supply chain operations. This is where we sold our logistics and services business to one of our customers and restarted Anchanto with almost zero revenue to a B2B enterprise SaaS company. So where we are today, we are probably 5 years old SaaS company with 7 years of heritage of being a logistics operator ourselves. Today, we are a company that provides a solution for supply chain for logistics for brands, as well as data analytics for brands. We operate in 11 markets. So Singapore is our headquarters. We have a large software development center back in India, in a city called Pune. And then we operate in Southeast Asia. So direct presence in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand. 3 years back, we expanded to 4 new markets. So now Anchanto also operates in South Korea. We now have presence in Middle East, in Dubai, where we operate Dubai as well as the Saudi business. We also opened Anchanto in the UK. And we have now also set up Anchanto 2 years back in France, in Paris, for expansion in the European business. We are a company that provides very core technology for supply chain companies to build and scale and grow their e-commerce supply chain as well as B2B supply chain operations. For example, we work with companies like Vietnam Post Office. They have a large logistics presence. We work with companies like CBIP. They provide large logistics services. We work with large brands like L'Oreal, for example. We work with the brands like Panasonic. So they operate the entire e-commerce operations using our platform. We are close to 320 team members present across 11 different offices. Something very interesting about Anchanto is 95% of investment in Anchanto came from my customers. So whenever I needed to raise money to scale Anchanto, I first approached my customers. So very happy to share that companies like Indonesia Telecom, their VC arm, MDI, has invested in Anchanto. Company like Lux Asia, which is one of the largest luxury fragrance distribution business, headquartered in Singapore. They are a very proud customer of Anchanto and also shareholder. A company called Ascendia, which is a joint venture between a Swiss post office and a French post office. They are our customer for the last 6 years, and they're also one of my shareholders.
Now, that is really interesting, and that is very impressive. And I think perhaps that's one of your secret sauce. The fact that, and I want to go back to your history, the fact that you actually operated logistics business gives you unique insights compared to your competitors who are pure tech companies. You understand the nitty gritties. And I'm sure that's where your customers and therefore now your investors understand that that deep domain knowledge basically resides within your company.
Oh, absolutely. So, interestingly, uh, my family, I'm originally back from India. I'm born and brought up in India, made in Singapore. So I studied in India. I come from a very logistics family background. My grandfather started a very compound logistic business back in India. My father grew that. I kind of grew up in an atmosphere where I used to see a lot of trucks outside our house most of the time. And during college holidays, going on a trucks was my pastime. I really, really enjoyed that logistics upbringing in that setup. And then I did a bit of detour. I studied telecom engineering and then studied software development on my own and worked in the software industry for 8, 9 years before starting Enchanto. So this logistics is in a way runs in a family blood, if I may put that way. And I'm very happy to kind of give a new technology-driven turn to logistics as a software provider. Now, running our self-logistic operation, as we always say, right? Never trust a skinny chef.
Yes.
Right? Similarly, if you develop logistics supply chain is a very complex domain. If you develop a supply chain software without having an actual experience of running supply chain, you develop it in vacuum. You can't really develop a technologies in vacuum. Complex technologies like supply chain. So having that heritage of running a logistics operation on our own is one of our biggest competitive advantage. We know exactly what it means to run a warehouse. We know exactly what it means to make an inventory available. We know exactly what it means to have available to purchase, promise, fulfilled, right? And that is reflected back in a software, which is super practical, built by logisticians for logisticians.
Now, that obviously has translated to growth. My research says that basically you've been growing at a 40% year-on-year growth rate. Tell us how you've been doing that and what have been the key success factors.
I think Enchanto, we are a very ambitious company. I want to build a global business. Enchanto will be a global business, right? So, and we really want to take a stab that it's not always a monopoly of Western companies to build a global businesses. We, somebody from this part of the world, can build a next SAP. We can build a next Salesforce. We can build a next Microsoft. The idea here is to really build a global standard for supply chain software. With that ambition, we constantly look at achieving the growth on two axes. So the first axis is number of products, and second axis is number of markets. We could have been very happy being only present in few countries in Southeast Asia, super profitable, kind of a run rate business. But we chose to go to more market. We chose to go and build more products. So now we have 6 products and we operate in 11 markets. Many of those markets are new markets for us. We have, in a way, almost figured out a playbook of launching a new market. Every market where we launch Enchanto, we build a local teams. We do not sell remotely. Our customer service, or account management, or sales, our implementation is done by local teams. So for example, somebody in Thailand using Enchanto software actually speaks to us in Thai. They write us email in Thai. Somebody using our software in Saudi speaks to us in Arabic, for example, and same in France. They speak to us in French. So we are building a very, very local business, but also a global business in terms of footprint. Because of these multiple products and multiple markets, we've been able to sustain a growth. Because sometimes, as the economic cycle goes, some markets do not perform. Some markets are very price sensitive. Some markets after COVID were really, really hit badly. Because of this global two-dimensional growth, we've been managed to grow successfully. That's one factor. A second factor is our customers. We are really lucky to work with some of the global leaders and regional leaders and local conglomerates in many parts of this world who have very, very long-term view of e-commerce, digital commerce, and they are investing constantly in growing this business. And as our customers are growing, we are also growing as a part of the journey with them.
So, Vaibhav, Southeast Asia, a lot of Westerners use the term Southeast Asia as if it's one market, but really it's a very, very diverse bunch of countries with different operating environments, different socioeconomic income levels, and so forth. How has the diversity of you operating in Southeast Asia helped you in your global expansion to the Middle East, as you mentioned, Dubai and Saudi Arabia, as well as then Europe, two different markets there, the UK and France?
Absolutely. So Southeast Asia is not a one market. Southeast Asia is a very complex 7, 8 main markets, which has their own a lot of strength and nuances. Southeast Asia and most of these markets have their own language. If you look at on a Big Mac index, every market has their own affordability, and every market has their own challenges. Very, very unique. The beauty here is that if you figure out Southeast Asia correctly, you can probably figure out any other country correctly, because you already been through the world's one of the most difficult, challenging market here, right? For example, Indonesia. Indonesia is 250 million people, 16,000 island plus minus based upon the high tide or low tide. Now, in those markets, how do you provide a software to somebody in Indonesia where probably the average wage is $100? In Indonesia, you can actually hire somebody in the remote part of Indonesia in your warehouse to work for a month for $100. So when you can build a software that works for businesses, which has that level of affordability, where the manpower is not a challenge, the challenge is accuracy, right? You can have a lot of people working in a warehouse, but are they working accurately? How do you handle pilferage? Same time in Vietnam, which is a very fast growing market. So we figured out Southeast Asia, every market one by one successfully. We are the only company which has a presence in every market in Southeast Asia, local teams, local presence, local language. And when we figure that out, we learn a lot of things. And actually the teams which are expanding Anchanto in a different part of the world is actually the team that figured out Southeast Asia. So they have been through the hardest exams here, and now they're able to apply those learnings in a new market. We don't take any market for granted, for sure. That's where the whole thing starts. And we also believe that every market is unique. There are no two markets are same. So we don't carry a luggage of, in a way that, okay, this worked in Vietnam, it means this would work in France. No, France is a different market, Vietnam is a different market. We have that beginner's mindset where we are able to apply learnings whenever we want, but same time, we're also willing to learn from the local market and really, really localize it. That has immensely helped us in our journey so far. And seeing such a diverse set of customers and applying the learnings from each other. So for example, our customers in the UK and France, they are extremely, extremely focused on efficiency of their stuff because of the minimum wage that you need to pay in warehouse in the UK or France. Now, when you bring that level of optimization plus the accuracy expected in this part of the world and combine it together, both the countries, both the regions, they get the best of the both worlds. That's why our customers like us, because we really bring them a lot of learnings and value from our experiences from other part of the world.
And it's interesting because, again, if someone visits your website, one of the first people that are endorsing your product is your partner or your customer in the UK. And I listened to that customer overview, and that was very, very compelling. And obviously that's going to help you, again, getting your customer to speak for you is really the best advertising whatsoever.
I think that's the second best. The best is if your customer actually puts money in your company. So as I said,
yeah, okay,
we raised $32 million from our customers as investment in Anchanto. So yes, you can ask for the video, you can ask for the testimony. We went all the way. Say, okay, do you really like us? Do you believe in us? Do you believe that Anchanto will be the next global story? And if yes, do you want to be part of the story? And we gave that opportunity to our customers to become shareholders and help us, guide us through the process of building a global company. So speaking is number two, investing the hard cash into Enchanto is probably number one.
Yeah, I completely agree with you because that is a very unique thing that I think Enchanto has done tremendously well. But let me ask you then, Vaibhav, you've done really well in the last couple of years. Where's the growth going to come from, and what sort of numbers are you looking at?
Okay, so if you look at Brian markets, let's start with Southeast Asia first, right? So Southeast Asia e-commerce, you can see it as pre-2019 and post-2019. So before COVID and after COVID, right? So something interesting thing happened just before the COVID. I think the supply-driven growth in Southeast Asia is now finished. The early days of e-commerce when Zalora was new in 2012, Rocket was just launching with Lazada in 2013 and around that time, and then Q10 came out, and a lot of development happened. So consumers were experiencing e-commerce first time, then there was a lot of supply. So large part of the growth from that 2012 to 2017, 18 came from supply. Now that supply-driven inflection is gone, now it is purely a very, I would say, practical growth scenario we have in the post-pandemic world, where the growth is now much more predictable across different markets.
And also one of the things, Vaibhav, if I want to interject, one of the key things that we've seen post-pandemic as markets opened, the e-commerce players had to go O2O, basically online to offline, and the physical guys, obviously, offline to online.
Absolutely. So a lot of realization happened, a lot of consolidation happened, a lot of brands who were not really willing to go e-commerce out. They actually saw that their early double-digit growth is coming through e-commerce or digital commerce channel. Live commerce came in. And this fantastic idea you mentioned, Brian, about kind of blurring the boundary between social commerce and online commerce and retail and O2O definitely became much more predominant, right? So with that in mind, if you look at now, the growth in e-commerce has slowed down in the last 16 to 18 months time, right? Where we are now is a stage where the large marketplaces, they are also now focused on a much more healthy and sustained growth. Discount funded, promotion funded growth is a thing of past that is not welcome anymore. So
there's no VC money anymore. The money is dried up. They have to make money.
Exactly. Now is the real time. This is what is separating the real businesses from a funded businesses only, right? So we start to see that the growth is sobering down. And in this, the real businesses, real brands, and real supply chain companies and marketplaces who has a very healthy matrix, who has a very good product base, who has a very good consumer base, they are thriving, they're growing, right? So some will consolidate, some has already consolidated. And we start to see the growth in the range of between 20% to 35% growth for Enchanto itself this year as compared to 45% that growth we achieved. However, we project, and based upon the trend that we see in the market, we believe that 2025 will again bring back the north of 35% growth across all the sectors, because this is a phase where it will kind of slow down, it will settle, and only the long-term player will remain in a business, whereas all the not so sustainable players will get out of the business, and we'll reach to a stage where it is a much more a quality growth for all of us.
Vaibhav, then given what you've just told us, how has your product suite evolved? And earlier in the interview, you mentioned that you've developed your products across 6 different categories and areas. Obviously, market needs, as you've just outlined, has shifted. How have you shifted to serve your customers better?
Absolutely. So in an early phase of e-commerce, the supply-driven growth, right? People just needed a tools to get up the ground. People needed a tool to get a bit more accuracy. People needed a tool. So when you see a software, you can almost call it as a capitalized labor, right? So you're deploying software to do a job, right? So early stages of expectation of software was get me a job done, or help me reduce the number of people required for this, or manual processes required to do the job. Now the expectation has changed. Now the expectation is that how can you add value? So for example, our customers are asking, say, hey, look, we use your order management system, and that's great. It does a job, but what it can do for us? Can I connect my factory directly to your order management system so that I reduce the time from goods that come from factory to distribution center, and then from distribution center, it becomes available to purchase for our customers? We start to see now more and more brands are actually doing fulfillment from the manufacturing location. Right? So we start to see that our customers are asking for optimization. We also see that our customers are saying that, hey, look, great, I'm using a software to kind of distribute my catalog and pricing information. Can you tell me now who is actually my competition? Can you tell me now that is there a price war and how I'm playing this price war? So that's where we come up with a product called Digital Shelf, which helps large brands to really understand where they are, how they're competing, how their competitors are doing, and answer those questions that, okay, am I running enough promotions? Is my promotions at the same level as my competition? What is my competitor doing on a particular marketplace against us? How is my category share is growing versus my competitor's category share growing? So we start to see that the expectations has evolved. Basic software is no more luxury.
So you're giving them market intelligence essentially on top of running their businesses.
Absolutely. So we built this new product called Digital Shelf. What it does is that independent of our OMS and WMS product, this product monitors entire category of marketplaces and online stores. And based upon our algorithms and machine learning, we are able to predict exactly how fast is the category growing, what is the share of category for a particular brand, how's the price war is evolving, and we also compare the promotions, and we provide a lot of unparalleled insights to large brands for them to price their product correctly, run their product promotions correctly, and make sure that they are growing faster than the category.
Interesting. That's fascinating. Vaibhav, it's been a really fascinating conversation. 3 years on, you've just completely evolved as a business, and it's been very enlightening. Now, before we leave, however, Vaibhav, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think e-commerce industry in this part of the world and globally is at a very, very interesting stage. We firmly believe that every commerce will become e-commerce. Everything will become a digital commerce. And when the world becomes a digital commerce today, which is average less than 5-6%, if I look at the total commerce that's happening, it opens a range of possibilities. And most important, it opens a possibility to build a global businesses like Enchanto, where we could actually ride the wave. We could bring all the global learnings and build a global company from here, directly from Southeast Asia. And I think this is just the beginning of it. And I'm super happy because at Enchanto, we kind of have a front row seat to how the e-commerce is evolving in this part of the world and globally.
Vaibhav, I look forward to then having a conversation with you a year from now, perhaps, to see how you've progressed. It's been fascinating. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Brian. It's always pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
I'm Brian Fernandez, and this has been Biztech's CEO Conversation Show. We've been speaking to Vaibhav Dabhade. He's the founder and CEO of Anchanto. This video will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.